For 8 o'clock, Mr. Bob Pollock is with us from the Indiana County Extension Office. What's going on with that? Is that okay for you?
We'll make it work one way or another.
A little microphone issue going on there. You can give Bob a call at 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. That's 349-9227. And he'll answer your questions about lawns and gardens and trees and stuff such as that. Maybe heat. Are there big heat-related issues with crops this year?
Not yet, but there could be.
After this week. Ask you on Monday, huh?
Yeah. Although, interestingly, this week I've looked at a couple trees that all of a sudden, this past week...
Heat distress.
I think it's finally catching up with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, and it's the whole tree that's being affected. It's not just one branch or a part of a tree. It's the whole tree that is starting to not look as thrifty as it should. A little bit of wilting, or, well, in one case, the leaves were dying back on the whole tree.
Curling up and dropping off.
Yeah. They hadn't dropped yet, but they were just kind of stuck on there, and
it's coming.
You knew it wasn't right.
Is that a sign that the tree has a more fundamental problem?
Yes. So a lot of times when we have the whole plant affected, whether it's a flower or a shrub or a tree, when the whole thing all of a sudden declines, then we probably need to start looking at the root system.
Okay.
So there's something major going on, and it may have taken months. It could have been things that happened, stresses that occurred over the last couple of years, and now they've culminated, and now all of a sudden we're, warmer weather, drier weather, and then boom, it just kind of hits all at once because the root system's been decaying.
Okay.
All the feeder, some of the feeder roots, or enough of them have been affected, were starting to die back and decline. And that could be brought on by just, 2 or 3 seasons of wet weather. Now, this one tree was in a wetter area where the ground can be a little spongy on a normal basis anyhow. And so with the excessive amounts of water we've had over the last couple of years, it could have just laid wet there long enough that the root system declined. But it's taken until now to kind of give it the last punch to take it out.
So when that happens, is that one of the first signs that the tree's starting to hollow out in the center and could have some...
It could be completely solid and fine.
Yeah.
That way.
But maybe
it's just that the roots have died. And so that's the whole water absorption system and nutrient absorption system. And when that goes, boom, then the top's going to respond eventually.
Okay. And will that manifest itself in more than just the leaves, but also in the branches themselves?
Yes. Yeah, okay. So there'll be a dry down of the branches because the moisture won't be there. So if you take and snip off or even take your thumbnail and just scrape some of the bark towards the end of the branches where it's this year's growth, is it green underneath like it should be and lighter colored, or is it brown? Okay. And so if that whole branch is declining, then underneath that layer of bark, it should be green, and then sometimes under that will be a little creamy color. But if it's all brown, then you know that it's dead or almost dead.
Yeah, it's on its last legs.
Yes.
Or branches in this case. Its last limbs, if you will.
Yes.
All right, let's get our caller. Good morning.
Good morning. I woke up this morning and noticed outside in my mulch, I have a yellow fungus or a mold, or it's not a mushroom. It's like mold or fungus. What's the best way to get rid of that?
What kind of mulch is it?
It's red.
Oh, yeah, red bark mulch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a number of slime molds that will grow, and with this warmer, humid weather, that's often the case. Those will start to grow, and they can be really bright, vivid colors, oranges and yellows, and so you can actually, and when those dry out, then there'll be spores in there that really fine, puffy, powdery stuff that'll float away from that. But right now, as that's there, you can actually just kind of take a shovel and just kind of collect that mass and dispose of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is usually the simplest and easiest way to deal with that. Sometimes you can just rake it around, stir it up, and spread it out. But if you can get that clump gathered up and out of there, that'll help.
Okay, you can't spray it with anything.
No.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
There you go.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to. You just never know where those will pop up. You may never see any of that, and then you may have one or two of them, or go 5 years and not have any, and then this year you'll have some of that.
I noticed on our lawn, just over the course of a single day, all of a sudden we got pop-ups of those little mushroomy-looking things out north. And it was in my really good grass, so it made me mad. But my best grass in the whole plot there.
And you'll mow it, and they'll be gone.
And they'll be gone. Yeah. They'll be gone. Okay, so 479-1160, 349-WCCS if you have another question for Bob.
But conditions were ripe for those to sporulate and germinate and grow. And
Sporulate. There's
mushrooms,
a lot of sporulating going on there.
Variety of mushrooms and things, and just has to be a little organic matter there, and the spores are there, and the right temperatures and humidity and moisture, and those things will grow.
Let's head out to the garden and take a look at what's going on out there. Every year at this time, we start hearing the question, tomato blight. Is there late blight? Is there early blight? We had a caller a week or so ago asking that very question. And at that time, you said Florida. There's one case maybe in Florida, but that's really all.
And that's about where we still are with that, as far as late blight is concerned.
Yeah.
Now, we just had a storm front come through the other day. I know that bounced up some numbers of some moths that attack sweet corn.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because prior to that we had very low catches, and then all of a sudden this morning, boom, catching moths. So those fronts can bring in both insects as well as different diseases. But really, with even all in the surrounding states, there hadn't been any reports at all at this time for late blight. So we're still good there. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you something entirely different, but if there's something else you want to say about gardens and plants, no?
Well, one other disease that they monitor is downy mildew, which gets on the vine crops, and that has moved its way up the East Coast, but really there haven't been any identified cases yet in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
so that's good too.
Increased talk this week out of Harrisburg, the governor and some others about the spotted lanternfly, and the state renewing efforts or looking at different ways to attack the spotted lanternfly problem and keep it from spreading. That's really what it's all about right now, isn't it? Keeping it from spreading into other parts of the state?
Trying to minimize the spread of that, kind of try to contain it, keep it from moving around as easily as it could be moved. Since the adults, and it's a real challenge because you have a very mobile insect. Now, granted, they're not great flyers, but you just think about all the movement of other things, not just them, but they can move on their own without any help. But we can aid in that, with vehicles and the whole transportation system. Just going on a visit, visit relatives in that part of the state, and then turning around and coming back, so they can land. Yeah, they can get in your vehicle, on your vehicle, under your vehicle, hang on for a ride, and boom, you've spread it back to where you live. So it's a real challenge to be able to limit the spread, especially during these summer months when those adults and the nymphs are active all summer long. Unlike some insects that might just have one generation, or they have a much shorter time frame that those adults are active, and then they're gone. But that's not the case with this insect.
All right, so the ash borer, the emerald ash borer, it did a number on the ash tree forest here in Pennsylvania. What will the lanternfly threaten?
Well, it's kind of it feeds on a lot of things. Now, granted, the tree of heaven, or ailanthus, is a primary tree that it attacks, which also happens to be an invasive species.
Yeah.
We have that all over the place around this county.
Too bad they can't kill each other.
Yeah, that's true. And I think there was some hope for that, oh, hey, we can take this invasive pest and knock out that invasive pest. I don't know that that's working out that well at this point in time. Vineyards, grapes, they highly are attracted to grapevines.
Yeah.
So the people that have vineyards are extremely concerned.
Sure.
Because these adults and the nymphs are sap suckers. So they stick their mouth parts in the vine and remove the sap out of them. Mm-hmm. And because they can be in such high populations, they can just kind of come in and they can do a lot of damage, really weaken those vines, and over the period of a year or 2 or 3, kill them.
We only have 2 minutes left here,
Okay.
so let's see if we can get this caller squeezed in. Good morning. You there? 54321. Oh, no, caller's not there anymore. So, all right, so grapevines.
Yeah,
that's one of the areas that the sapsuckers.
Yeah, and they're concerned about other tree fruits and things, especially with like apples and peaches and plums and things, where they might pierce into the fruit itself, and then same thing that the brown marmorated stink bug does. It sticks its mouth parts in the side of the fruit and feeds in there and removes sap and sticks some chemicals in there of its own making, and so then you get a spot, which turns into a brown spot, which affects the quality and keepability of that fruit and the salability of that fruit.
Keep your mouth parts to yourself.
Yeah. If they only would do that.
Jeez.
If they would pierce each other and not the fruit or the vines, then we could.
We'll continue
to
hear about the spotted lanternfly and the tree of heaven and everything else invasive.
All that.
That's become a major topic, and so there you go. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1 FM.